It's pretty rare to see a Naruto character reach their full potential, which is kind of disappointing because of the amount of powerful Jutsu and Kekkei Genkai out there. Many characters simply do not reach the heights of what they're capable of, mainly because of how cruel the Naruto world can be. Looking back at the amount of prodigies in Naruto makes me want to consider where they could have reached if the plot didn't hold them back. So in this video I'm going to take a look at the potential of one of the greatest prodigies in history, Madara Uchiha. During the Warring States period, Madara was born to the Uchiha clan to become a child soldier, and he witnessed the death of many ninja, including members of his own family. This alone would set him up to be a pretty powerful ninja because the Uchiha are born with the Sharingan, which as you know are amped by strong emotions like love and hatred. At a pretty young age, he could easily defeat fully grown Senju, but of course Madara's only power would continue to grow when he achieved the Mangekyo Sharingan, alongside his brothers. Overuse of the Mangekyo Sharingan led to blindness, and when he was gifted his brother's eyes to obtain the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, it's believed he grew to was thought to be his maximum potential, but what really set him apart was the fact that he was a reincarnation of the Sage's Sixth Path son Indra Utsutsuki. So when he was finally defeated by his rival Hashirama, the reincarnation of Ashura, he stole his flesh to obtain the Rinnegan, but by then he was way too old to use it. It's only after being reanimated by Kabuto years later he could somewhat use it. To unlock his true power, he had to have Obito revive him using the Rinnegan through the Rinne Rebirth Jutsu. At this point Madara was at his peak potential as a human being at least. He was considered the strongest villain at the time, and being stronger than Hashirama and even Ten Tails Obito, which is absolutely insane. But he would only truly transcend his limits when he became a Ten Tails Jinchuriki himself and gained a power level that rivaled the Sage's Six Paths, going on to even surpass that level. He was incredibly powerful at this point, being able to survive and beat 8th Gate Might Guy in one of the greatest fights in the series. But when Naruto himself gained Six Paths powers, Madara was forced to absorb the God Tree to fight Team 7, taking them on simultaneously. But he likely even surpassed that level when he awakened his Rinne Sharingan and activated the infinite Tsukuyomi. He was almost unbeatable, but we all know what happened next. His life was cut short when Zetsu betrayed him and reawakened Kaguya to reclaim the world's chakra supply. Madara is a perfect example of a wasted potential because he could have become so much more powerful if a plot hadn't stepped in and stopped him. You probably hear this rhetoric being thrown around a lot, and there is some truth to it. I think the way he died makes sense narratively. I can talk about that in another video. However, it's just a shame we'd only just seen the tip of the iceberg. So you have to ask, how powerful was Madara and how much more powerful could he have become if he wasn't consumed by Kaguya? We didn't see much of a Rinne Sharingan from Madara, but in the short time frame that he did have it, he pulled off the infinite Tsukuyomi, which didn't affect Sasuke or the Edo Hokage, but would have pretty much worked on anybody else. To pull it off, Madara used the Deep Forest Emergence Jutsu, which is basically wood style to extend the roots of a god tree around the world in an instant. This is a feat calculated to produce a few Yota tons of energy, which is absolutely insane because it's enough to destroy gas giant planets like Saturn, which is a lot bigger than Earth. As impressive as that is, his chakra was still nowhere near Kaguya's according to Sasuke. And this was further proven by the fact that Madara nearly exploded when Kaguya's chakra started flowing into him. Other than this, we don't really know what other powers he gained from a Rinne Sharingan, but I think it's fair to assume they would have been powers similar to Kaguya's, especially since he had an equal amount of Tomoe in his Rinne Sharingan to what Kaguya had, that being 9, so it does make sense. Think about it. He was basically just evolving into Kaguya, and if he continued to evolve, he would have eventually gained her chakra gradually. Kaguya's Rinne Sharingan is said to have the Amino Namaka, which basically just swaps the universe with one created by her. Unlike most time-space ninjutsu, where the users move themselves to the destination, Kaguya just moves the destination to herself, kind of like what Sasuke does on a smaller scale with objects and people. This means that Madara could have potentially created his own dimension with his own rules, and also been able to move them around. Well, maybe not as well as Kaguya, because to move her large dimensions requires an insane amount of chakra, so much so that Kaguya was quickly drained. Madara could have potentially controlled Kaguya's chakra without exploding if he wasn't fed all of it at once, and he could have replaced Kaguya as a final villain as well if that did happen. Hypothetically, he'd be nearly as powerful as Kaguya, but this wouldn't automatically make him invincible, since Kaguya, despite having more experience, was still harmed by Team 7 and was eventually sealed away by them too. Madara would most likely remain on Earth, and this would unironically, I think, give them an advantage, because Naruto and Sakura would still be affected by infinite Tsukuyomi. This means that they would have to remain hidden inside Sasuke's Susanoo, basically making it a 1v1 between Madara and Sasuke, which I think would be a lot easier for Madara. And the reason Madara would stay on Earth is because I don't even think he would know how to use Kaguya's abilities at first, and when he's realized that he's got an advantage, he'd probably use it. Well, hopefully. In contrast, Kaguya switched over to her worlds so she could protect Earth, which was her precious nursery, but Madara wouldn't really be as concerned, yet still careful knowing that he has no alternative, because I don't think he wants to actually destroy the planet, right? Remember that he's already using some insane jutsu like the Chibaku Tensei to create these small moons to change the world's terrain without much care. If he was Kaguya level, it's possible that he could create larger Shibaku Tensei and larger Tengai Shinsei meteors, probably the size of planets if he wanted to. Although I doubt that he would do anything like that against Team 7 in order to not destroy the Earth, since in his own twisted way, as I alluded to earlier, he still wants to protect the people of his world and keep them in the infinite Tsukuyomi. But with all of that excess chakra, he'd most definitely improve his already existing jutsu, like the Limbo, one of the most busted jutsu ever. It allows him to cast a shadow of himself in a different dimension, each shadow having the same power level and abilities as him, but shadows exist in a dimension that is invisible and overlaps with the physical world, making it nearly impossible to interact with. This makes the shadows invisible and intangible to any kind of physical damage, so they can't be harmed by anybody other than Naruto. The only other real weakness of Limbo is that after a certain amount of time it needs to return back to Madara's body to recharge. With one Rinnegan, Madara was able to form one shadow, with two Rinnegan he can form 4, so I have to assume with a Rinne Sharingan that he can at least create an additional 3 shadows, taking the total up to 7. However, if he gained Kage's chakra, it's possible that he could pull off a multi-shadow clone version of his jutsu, kind of like Naruto does, which would be absolutely insane if he could do. Although Sasuke can see the Limbo clones, he can't physically interact with them, the same way Naruto can. But the problem is Naruto can't leave the Susanoo because of Infinite Tsukuyomi, so Team 7 are at a massive disadvantage. At best, Naruto and Sasuke could attempt to create a majestic attire and by Sakura's 100 healings jutsu, but as long as Madara continues to stay smart, unlike Kaguya, to keep his distance with the Ash Bones and Slope of the Underworld if he does have those jutsu, he can stall out long enough until the God Tree drains the chakra collected from the Infinite Tsukuyomi in order to increase his stats drastically. If Madara did have the expansive truth-seeking orb, I don't think he'd use it straight away, because why would he want to in the first place? But even if he didn't know how to use it, I think he would most likely be able to focus all of his power into a singular condensed attack, just to destroy the majestic attire Susanoo. Even if you think this isn't possible, what are Team 7 gonna do regardless? Madara's regeneration makes him nearly immortal, and take Kaguya, she could regenerate from nothing but chakra mass and wasn't concerned about her being erased by the expansive truth-seeking orb. So the only way to realistically stop him would be through using the Sun and Moon seals, the same way Kaguya was stopped. But as long as the Infinite Tsukuyomi is active, that's nearly impossible, since Naruto can't leave the Susanoo. So I'd have to give this fight to Madara. After winning this battle and killing Team 7, what's next for Madara? Well, the easy answer would be to say that he would join the Infinite Tsukuyomi dream and then merge them all together to become a god that controls them in a peaceful dream like he planned to do in the first place, but that is a cop-out. I think at that point he'd be smart enough to realize that the Infinite Tsukuyomi isn't actually what it seems, rather it's just a tool used to harvest the chakra of the world and turn everybody into Zetsu. And of course that isn't what he wants, it's almost the complete opposite of what he wants. So he would have to release the Infinite Tsukuyomi and become the world's supreme leader without much resistance, since there's nobody strong enough to stop him as he is the strongest in the world. During the next few years, I think he'd build an empire and use Slope of the Underworld to travel to other dimensions to gather information. Whether he actually finds Kaguya's dimensions or not is questionable, since he doesn't have the time-space coordinates for them. But since he has become Kaguya, it's possible that he has an understanding of where they are. If he does find one of the dimensions, he could learn of the Otsutsuki threat that Momoshiki and Kinshiki pose. If not, then I guess he just remains in the dark and would just suspect that Kaguya is an alien and there's more of them out there. So he'd probably just be training during this time period regardless. Maybe a little harder if he knows about Momoshiki and Kinshiki. Also, during that time, Toneri wouldn't be happy with what's going on Earth, so would probably start preparing a plan to obtain the Tenseigan and destroy the Earth by smashing the moon with it. Once Toneri begins his assault, Madara may not be fully aware that Hanabi's Byakugan has been stolen, so this would allow Toneri the time to mature the Tenseigan and maybe train up a little bit. Madara not soon after would most likely catch on to the fact that the moon's getting closer to the Earth, and I think this would probably lead to a confrontation between Toneri and Madara. Don't get me wrong, Toneri is very powerful and could arguably be the strongest villain ever, according to promotional material, but I don't buy it. The blurb for the first chapter of Boruto says that Kaguya had been the greatest threat to the world up until the point Momoshiki and Kinshiki arrived. So surely this means that Kaguya was stronger than Toneri, right? But then again, Toneri at his strongest begins to merge the eyes of Hamura's Tenseigan together with himself. In this form, Toneri creates his chakra ball and arrogantly claims that it's a shining light capable of destroying the earth in one blast. He also claims to have gained Hamura levels of chakra and power, which I guess is technically true as he's pretty much merged with Hamura's original Tenseigan. It's important to remember that Hamura was nearly on par with his brother Hagoromo, and if not on par, at least relative to him since he did help him defeat Kaguya in the past. so he should at least be able to keep up with Kaguya, and after defeating her, it's presumed by legend that he actually became a Tensei Shinchuriki alongside his brother. It's hard to say exactly what this means, but if I had to assume, I think it means that his brother split the Tensei between them. Later on, we know that Hamura would go on to evolve his basic Byakugan into the Tenseigan, so whatever way you look at it, it's very likely he greatly surpassed Kaguya at this point. But there's an issue. The version of Kaguya that Team 7 faced was missing half of Kurama's chakra, sure, but it also drained the chakra of most of the world's population, at least a good amount of it. While it's technically true that it was her chakra in the first place, ninja can naturally grow their chakra reserves, so it's likely that she got a better return of chakra than what she had originally. So we don't really know how strong Hamura was, since it's hard to say which version of Kaguya was stronger. Was it her in the past, when she had Kurama's chakra? Or was it her in the future, when she had most of the world's chakra? Toneri, even when being generous, probably isn't as strong as this hypothetical Madara that we're talking about, who should have long surpassed Kaguya at this point anyway. So this is not ending well for Toneri, whatever way you look at it. Honestly, my boy Toneri, as cool as he is, I think he gets slept no difficulty. Madara probably just like punches and knocks him out the same way Naruto did. Onto the Boruto era. Madara in theory should be around during this era with his high levels of chakra that pretty much just keep him immortal, and this same chakra would most likely draw Momoshiki and Kinshiki out, and before he knows it, there's an Otsutsuki invasion that's begun. Momoshiki and Kinshiki go straight for the largest amount of chakra that they can sense, which is Madara. Let's say that they catch my boy Madara lacking, let's say he's on a toilet or something, what's happening? Keep in mind, Momoshiki is a pretty powerful dude. He caused a supernova on his way to Earth originally in the main timeline, and he's allegedly so much stronger than Kaguya that she needs prep time and an army just to compete with him, according to herself. Combined with the fact that he created a dimension with multiple stars in it, he's no joke. In theory, he would definitely be a threat to Madara. I think Madara's potential as a being who's Indra's reincarnation, with 6 paths powers and the 10 tails, has a potential at least as great as Sasuke, if not greater, if I'm being completely honest. Plus he actually has 2 arms, better regeneration, so surely he hasn't just been slacking, and is probably stronger than adult Sasuke if he's kept up with his training. Whether he can actually activate a Susanoo like Sasuke is questionable, but honestly who needs it if he has Kaguya's insane toolkit? Adult Sasuke was so strong that even with his chakra drained by his time-space ninjutsu, he was still keeping up with fused Momoshiki. He was definitely weaker than him, but he could keep up, and Madara should be as powerful as a full chakra Sasuke, who should probably be able to beat Momoshiki. So baseball Momoshiki and Kinshiki are getting easily clapped without any problem at all. The only problem is Madara does love to dick around a little bit when he's winning, so he'd probably unironically allow them to fuse together, which is where he'd probably start having his first few problems. In my opinion, I think he'd have to edge a win against Momoshiki with his high IQ and insane toolkit. It'd be funny if Momoshiki gave Madara his karma after his death, but I don't really know the rules. Do you think it would work for him? I'm leaning towards yes. The next few fights would be even more interesting because they would be against Kara. So how would he hold up against them? With the rate that his power level should be increasing, I imagine that Madara would be the favorite odds-wise against all of the Kara members, other than maybe Jigen. Honestly, I don't actually know what he would do against him. Maybe him overwhelming him with the Limbo might come in clutch. But I think that the Otsutsuki will surely have some form of 6-path Senjutsu, which allows him to fight the shadows, the same way Naruto did. Madara is immortal, so Jigen wouldn't easily put him down. He would have to most likely seal him away in an orb like he did with Naruto, without much effort. The only thing is, I think that Madara, if he did have Momoshiki's karma, and this is a massive stretch, he should be able to escape the orb. Actually, now I think about it, he could probably just escape it with his regular time-space ninjutsu. Momoshiki being unleashed with Madara's power might actually go pretty crazy, but it's hard to say who'd win for sure. Let's say for the sake of the story that Jigen is somehow beaten and forced to use his karma to revive through Jigen or Kawaki. What happens next? I mean, this is going down the realm of complete conjecture and has now just become a what if scenario that I basically control, so take everything I say with a grain of salt now, because obviously I'm not the author. Well, I'm an author of this fanfiction now, I guess. Madara would probably lose to Ishiki regardless of who he uses to revive through, whether it be Jigen or Kawaki. I say this because Ishiki is on a completely different level to Jigen according to Kashin Koji. Even reviving through Jigen, who should be weaker than reviving through Kawaki. Ishiki could even somewhat compete with Barin mode Naruto. I know he was getting his cheeks clapped, but like he wasn't dying instantly. He could somewhat keep away from him, swap hands with him, take his punches. So he's in the same tier of power as him, just not as strong as Barin mode. Barin mode is an amp that causes Naruto to use all of his chakra in a few minutes. So just imagine the energy output of characters like Naruto and Ishiki is probably ridiculous. Even though Madara is immortal, nothing's stopping Ishiki from just using the karma to teleport Madara to the Daikokuten dimension, in which time is frozen or doesn't exist, and at that point it's just reps. The only possible counter is if Madara uses his own karma to potentially block his, kind of like how Boruto negged Kawaki's use of it. But let's be honest, Madara probably wouldn't even be quick enough to do anything about it. But if Madara did train his arse off, where could he reach? Well, if he does have a similar potential to Sasuke, and we saw Sasuke in a few years reach Jigen level, because he could harm Code, I think it's fair to assume Madara could do something similar and reach Jigen level, but being Jigen level is still nowhere near being Ishiki level. So yeah, he'll just get beaten, most likely sent to the Daikokuten dimension. Now we're on a topic, why didn't Jigen or Ishiki teleport Naruto Sasuke to the Daikokuten dimension? It makes no sense. Maybe Boruto was able to block it and Ishiki knew that, so he just didn't use it. But surely he's just way too quick for anybody, right? None of it really makes sense, so I'll leave it to just being a plot hole. Maybe I'm missing something. If I am, or if you guys have any ideas, just comment down below what you think it is. And while you're at it, I'd really appreciate it if you could like and sub. It ensures me that you guys are digging the content and motivates me to keep the grind up. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.